are Smooth Jazz Notes, here interviewing Greg Carmichael and Miles Gilderdale. It has been 15 years that the two of you have been making music together. I'm sure I speak for all the fans when I say thank you.
Well, thank you.
Are the two of you actually close friends?
Yeah, we are, yeah.
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
So you get along really well. You're not like you hear about these songwriting teams that,
It's business only.
Right.
No,
And
No, it's not the case at all. Actually,
it was easier.
we enjoy chatting about a few
We
things.
do,
don't we?
of course we do. It was easier being chummy when I lived in London. I used to live in London, very close to Greg actually, and then we used to have a bit more fun. Used to go see gigs and stuff together, didn't we?
I mean, we tend only to meet because of the distance. We tend only to meet up for just for business, but for music making. That tends to be it. But it's not just about music making, is it? We can talk about a few things.
We've got a couple of things in common.
well, the focus of this CD seems to have returned Acoustic Alchemy to your roots, focusing on the magic of the two guitars. Please tell us about the making of Roseland.
Well, it's been a long time in the making. The last CD came out about 4 years ago, and it's amazing how time, just goes by. I guess, when the last CD came out, and then we came out of contract. We fulfilled the length of our contract, and it was kind of at that point that we decided that we would try and do our own thing rather than go through a record label. It took a time, didn't it, really, to get motivated?
Yeah,
because
get the mindset and all those things. The motivation was quite a big part of it, actually.
It was, and but Miles, you did it pretty damn quickly, actually. You built a studio. You built a home studio, which just outside your.
Yeah, just outside the house.
Yeah.
we've sort of taken our cues from the other guys in the business, really. The last album was out in 2007, and I know that must have been back then. I know Larry Carlton he'd released his album, I can't remember now. It was something blue, wasn't it? Sapphire Blue.
Sapphire, yeah.
And people like Spyro Gyra, who are sort of contemporaries of the band. They've been writing and recording themselves for ages in J Studio.
Yeah.
And so looking around, we saw that this was pretty well what everyone else seemed to be doing. Record companies don't have the budgets anymore.
No.
If you want to keep doing what you do, you've got to find a new way of doing it.
That's right, because we knew we wouldn't be getting a sort of big enough budget to do it the way we wanted to do it. So it took a lot longer, didn't it?
Yeah.
And because it was a bit of trial and error, really.
Yeah, it was a curve, a learning curve.
A learning
as they
curve,
say.
yeah.
But didn't it cost you a lot less money in the long run because you didn't have to pay for studio time?
That's right.
Didn't have to pay for studio, but
How much do I owe you?
had to pay for a studio.
Exactly.
Yeah, we hope to recoup at some point, but yeah, I mean, in theory, it didn't cost us so much, but we do have to do a couple more albums before we pay for the studio, as it were. But yeah, you're right. There wasn't a ticking clock, which there normally would be. You'd normally be using a studio, and you do feel that pressure.
Which can sometimes be a positive
Exactly, it's
thing.
not always a bad thing.
Having the pressure.
Because the other side of having your own studio is that theoretically you'd never have to finish the thing. You can just keep doing it, trying different things, remixing and remixing forever. And at some point you've got to just call it a day. Send the child out into the world, see if it'll stand on its two legs.
So is it harder then to actually finish a song?
You've got to be disciplined about it. I think we've sort of acquired the discipline over the years.
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, potentially, yeah. You can fiddle around the edges forever. Yeah.
So how else has having your own home studio changed the way you make music?
Um, yeah, but in essence, that sort of covers it really. There's nothing is really a problem. We are slightly limited in that. I mean, we record drums and so forth, but if we wanted
The grand piano.
exactly a grand piano in a nice sounding piano room, we do have to go elsewhere to do that sort of thing. If we wanted to put a string section in on
The
we couldn't do
orchestra.
that. Exactly, the orchestra would have to be done in Abbey Road. But so we're limited somewhat. It's a 2-room studio. But it works for, the point is it works for the guitars,
Yeah.
and get the kit down, the rhythm section, all that. So it's good in that respect. As I say, it's more the discipline thing. It's at the end of the day, when it's 10 o'clock, my girlfriend's not too keen about seeing me disappear out of the room again to do another 2 hours on the mixing or editing or whatever. Because as long as it's there, you can keep just nipping in, and it's not what's good for a
I
dinner.
have to say, I mean, Miles did a great job because I'm totally useless at, controlling any equipment. So it was quite easy for me, in as much as when I was recording my guitar, Miles would be in the control room and he knew exactly what to do. I couldn't help him at all when it came to him recording his guitar. You had to do
He was there with words of encouragement though.
Yes,
The encouragement was good.
yeah.
So you both write the songs together.
Mhm.
Can you share with us how this process takes place?
It's quite simple, really. I mean, it's like anything that you might do together. You get some ideas. I mean, I suppose because we live a couple of 100 miles apart, it makes sense to get together when we've got something to show each other. So which will happen. I'll be in London, strumming away, fiddling away. Think, oh, that sounds good. Miles will be doing the same up at his studio, and then we'll decide that we'll spend 4 or 5 days putting them together or seeing what each other likes, and it's just a slow building process, really.
And we tend to think when we're writing, we tend to think in fairly short snippets. I don't think either of us comes up with 4 minutes worth of music. We tend to think of something that you like. It might be chord progression, a bit of melody, a riff that shows promise. That's
what takes the time, isn't it? It's getting the B section.
Yeah,
you might have
exactly.
the first bit, getting the next bit.
Yeah.
It takes the longest time.
That's right. The inspiration bit's the sort of the easy bit. That's the bit that that just seems to come,
Yeah.
and then you've got to work like hell to get the rest of the song to go with it.
Why did you decide on the name Roseland for the new CD?
We didn't actually. We didn't.
It was chosen for us.
Well, it was when we're sort of writing, recording, things like the title of the new CD or the title of tracks. So there'd be something that we would do at the end, because getting the right title for an instrumental track, because it hasn't got any lyrics, so it's not going to be obvious. It doesn't say she loves you, and that's going to be the name of it. So we tend to leave that to last, but usually while we're doing that, our manager Stuart is looking for things to do, isn't he?
He is.
Yeah.
And he's a creative
He
guy.
is creative, and he came up with a list of. He said, "Do you like any of these titles?" And it was about 10 different things. And usually it's quite hard because we'd say no, don't like it. No, don't like
He's very
it.
patient.
Yeah, and anyway, but one of them on there was Roseland, and we both thought
we liked the idea of it.
it sounded really good. Really liked it.
He took it as his starting point was he had he had a very memorable sort of evening in Oregon. This is not a rock and roll evening. It was a bit of a magical evening for him, I think, in Oregon, of which the Roseland Theatre was part. And but we just like the Roseland just as an abstract.
Because it is quite abstract.
Yeah, exactly. to the people in Portland, it might be extra special. But no, we like the idea of Roseland. It seemed quite enigmatic.
Well, Greg, we understand that Temple Mead was written with your daughter in mind. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, it was a joint composition, as all the compositions on the CD are. I guess it was that I got 3 daughters. The youngest one, Penny, she went away to university in a place called Bristol, where there's quite a kind of music scene happening down there. And she would, when she came home, she would bring, various CDs and would play them before she'd go back, back to school during the sort of vacation period, holiday period. I think she perhaps, well, I mean, they all have done, but she perhaps opened my ears up to a few things, and just started with a little picking thing that reminded me of the sort of music that she might be listening to, and so it's a bit of a...
Yeah, Temple Mead is an area of Bristol.
Of Bristol, where she was studying.
So, sounds a bit more interesting than just Bristol.
It does, yes. Yeah.
Stealing Hearts has a pedal steel guitar. Why did you decide on using this instrument in this song?
That's your idea.
Well, yeah, it was just a thought. A good friend of mine is a very good pedal steel player. He's a bit of a, well, actually, it's not just that, he's a multi-instrumentalist. He sort of specialises in all the instruments that none of us play. He's very good on banjo and all the interesting instruments. But yeah, it was a very folky sounding tune. And we would just, while we were writing it, we'd just refer to it as the folk tune. And at some point, I just thought we should really try Frank on this one.
I mean, he's great,
and he's a great guy. I've known him for more than half my life, and he's creative and a real character. And so we just thought, well, let's try it.
But that's what
again, it was part of having the studio.
But
we could just try it out. Couldn't
that was also one of the things that was quite interesting about this record was that because we didn't have a large budget, because we were paying for it ourselves. You'd say, "Oh, I know a guy, a local guy."
Yeah.
You wouldn't think, "Oh, let's pull in."
Yeah.
The big star or something.
Yeah, that's right. The main man in
so
Nashville.
it was just like local guys are on that you'd met, gigging, and but who were good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was quite fun actually, wasn't it? Rather than go for, let's get that
DJ Cole. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. No, he did a great job.
Well, you have even delved into a little straight ahead jazz on this CD with Right Place, Wrong Time. Can you tell us how this song came about?
Yeah. I remember I actually came up with that sort of, can't even sing it because it's one of those things you can't sing. One of those things. I always thought it would have be great to be one of those jazz musicians who can play.
One of those chaps. Those jazz chaps.
Who can play all that sort of stuff, because I always really liked it.
Yeah.
I've always really liked that, but I don't see myself as a jazz musician. And so we had problems with that one, didn't we? Because it sort of got the riff and it's slightly out of time.
Yeah. Well, we needed to score it in order to. Because you sat down and played it, played the head and the following parts, and it was a good 70% of the tune was sort of there really with what we came with. But then we needed to score it so that we could, in order to play it to the other chaps. It's just like anything else. Even though we're writing on, I know we sort of use computers, you still got to score a piece. And so that was where the trouble started, because it changes time signature every bar virtually.
Right. But then we gave the middle section to Fred, the keyboard player, and just let him say, just do your thing.
Have a bit of fun with that.
And he did. He did a great job. And that's the other thing that's nice about the CD is that the people playing on it, the majority of people, the essence of it is the band, our live touring band. So that's also nice. That hasn't necessarily been the case.
No,
historically.
No, certainly going back some.
So do each of you have a favorite song?
It's always a tricky one. We're asked this. It's. Do you have a favourite child? It's one that you can't say, can you? It's illegal.
No, we like them all for whatever reason.
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously, some are going to have more appeal. As ones.
Just the same as the children.
So we understand that you started a new label. Tell us about it, please.
Yeah, I mean, it's not.
What you're
It's not. It's not. I'm not. You know, we're not going to be going out looking for other people.
Signings. Yeah.
No way.
Going to become a hard-nosed evils.
No, it was just. It was just a nice idea that we can own it, and that it belongs to us, which means that we could go to to a record company and say, are you interested in this? And this is where our manager Stuart, because he's very good at that sort of thing. We realised that it's one thing saying, oh yeah, we've got a record label. It's something else actually getting it out there. Especially in America, it's just such a big place, and we're living in England, and just the whole idea of trying to liaise and with various distributors and publicists,
logistics.
It was just been a nightmare. I mean, it already get too many emails, so, and not really doing very much. So we decided that we would try and license it, and Stuart worked hard on that, and it's been licensed by Heads Up, who are doing a fantastic job. I've got to say, they're doing a great job. Really, really good.
Why did you name it Onside Records?
Oh, that's just the football connotation. The soccer, I suppose, for Americans. Yeah. I love football. I'm a big fan of football. In England, English football, the real football. Yeah.
Soccer.
Soccer. We don't call it soccer, but we call it football. You call it soccer. But no, big fan of that, and just thought it'd be quite fun. Because you don't want to explain what onside is, do you?
No, I know.
We simply don't have the time.
Yes.
To
the onside rule and the offside,
Yes.
You do.
I have men in my family that explained it all to me.
they did, did they?
You can do that as a set piece to camera, actually.
Very good.
They were very nice
I'm
to
impressed.
me. Yes, I got it all down.
Good.
Yes. So besides music, what inspires you in life?
Just did. Soccer.
Besides, and soccer.
Well, two pretty big things.
I mean, soccer is very
music
important.
And football, yeah.
Yes.
What else? Football and
And
music.
yet, anything else?
Is there time for anything else?
Well, I'm not sure.
Well, neither am I.
Music and football and music. Does it really? Yeah. I'm not a football nut myself, but the music does take up rather a lot of time. Many years ago, I used to spend time, I used to do renovating cars and motorcycles. I used to love doing that.
Yeah.
But not of late. It's been since building studios.
But I have to say, you're very, and I'm not being, you're handy.
I'm a handy lad.
Mars is brilliant at a lot of things. In fact, when we're on tour, if something goes wrong with the gear, or whether it's my gear, the keyboard player's gear or anything, Miles is always in there and he can usually fix it, which is very useful.
Wonderful.
Yeah, he's very good at that.
I like to see that well-roundedness.
Yeah, that's why with his studio, you had it was a hands-on thing. Obviously
Very
you had
much
help
so,
with some things, but yeah.
Well, we really appreciate you coming across the pond to play for us, and we thank you for spending some time with us.
Pleasure.